I'm Jason Morgan with National Equipment Dealers. I'm a forestry specialist here, and today we're going to do a walk around on the Raptor 100. This particular machine is 5,700 pounds. It's running an M450 1450 head, 30 bite control rotor teeth. It has hydraulic push bar, hydraulic front mulching door. It will actually lift this head 23.5 inches off the ground to go over any kind of obstacles you have, with the machine having a ground clearance of about 12.5 inches. The great thing about this machine is the tracks, you can bring them in or widen them. The tracks are 47.9 inches when they're in, 62.7 inches when they're wide. So you can get through any kind of gates or tight spots to get into your mulching jobs that you wouldn't be able to get into with a regular machine. It runs a hydraulic winch that'll pull about 2,200 pounds. LED lights front and rear for working. Chain guard on the rear for safety and protection, so when you're running this machine remotely, you don't have a lot of debris coming out the back of it. Emergency stop switch on the side. The working panel for all the diagnostics on the machine, as well as your start and emergency stop and master power key. And then this also has a Lexan door on it, so you can see it while the machine is running and the door is closed. This area right here is storage for the remote, and it also has a 12-volt option in here. You can charge your battery for the remote control while the machine is running. You have an additional battery comes with the machine. This particular head on this machine has 30 teeth on it, which are chipper teeth on this particular one, and has the bite control rotor, which controls the depth and how deep the head will actually go into the ground. There's also a carbide tooling option for these that you can get. This particular head right here is the Prinoth. We run that with all of the Raptor 100s, obviously because of the Prinoth brand, and they hold up. The tools that are on this head, the chipper teeth, are also sharpened. You can sharpen them. When you get you should sharpen them about every 6 hours, and all the keys come with a gauge to set that on the face of the tool, and you can just run an angle grinder across the face of the tool and put your edge back on it, renew your teeth just about every day you run it. And you do that with your general maintenance as far as greasing your head every day. I would sharpen my teeth when I grease my head. This hood is relatively heavy, and it takes a little bit of horsepower to pick this thing up. It's got a solid steel stay right here, and it does have some helpers with some hydraulic pistons right here, but it is a heavy hood. This tractor is running a 75 horsepower Deutz diesel engine with 25.4 gallons of hydraulic flow per minute. Air filter and everything is right on the top, very easy to access, as well as your fuel fill. Your gas filter or fuel filters are down underneath here. I don't think you'd be able to see them, but your oil check and your hydraulic checks are very easy, and everything is out in the open to maintain this machine. All of your grease points are labeled, so you want to make sure you go over all your grease, check your air filter and all your fluid levels daily before you run the machine. This tractor has a self-reversing fan as well to keep the hydraulics and engine cooling system cleaned out, and you can run that off of the remote, and it'll do it at so many cycles as the machine runs as well. This winch on the back of this is hydraulically driven. Controls are here, motor is here. This will pull approximately 2,200 pounds. If you do get the machine stuck, it will have no issue pulling this out.
So I'm going to start this machine from scratch using the remote control. Open the engine compartment, turn the kill switch straight up, turn the ignition switch on. You'll hear the fuel pump picking up the fuel. That'll go for a minute or two. The screen will get alive here. There's your gauges just popped up for the engine screen. Once that pump picks up and gets the fuel charged, you're ready to start the machine. Process is, make sure all of your buttons are in neutral positions, i.e. 0, 0, 0, neutral, neutral, neutral. Then you turn the key on, green flashing light is flashing fast. Hit the green button we talked about. That's telling people it's ready. Down on the engine start switch, then up. Okay, I'm going to walk over the remote control for everybody. So basically, the first thing you need to know about this remote control, if you look at it right now, you notice the switch is down. This is not on 0. See the zeros? In order to start the machine, everything has to be zeroed or at the bottom of its curve. So I'm going to put this as the tracks. This is the starter for the engine. This is the tracks in or out. This is you can actually dial the tracks in, so if you're on a side slope and it's slipping, you can actually dial it so it'll go straight across the side slope. That's what that's for. This is the actual track speed. Like on a skid steer, you got a turtle mode. You flip it over, you got a rabbit mode. If you're driving across the country, you run rabbit mode. If you're working, you run it in high on the turtle mode. This I don't use, that's just lights. This is the potentiometer. This actually runs the head speed. So this turns the head on, this runs the head speed. You take it off at 0, push that button up, that engages the head, and you run it all the way up wide open. Never run it at idle or down in here, always run the head wide open. This particular switch is the actual winch that runs that winch that we talked about over there. Jumping up top, this joystick runs the tracks just like a skid steer. It works just like a skid steer, back and forth and turning. This joystick runs the head up and down. The little button in the middle of the head actually is float, so when you're doing your backing up pass, you can actually hit that button and the head will go to the ground, and the head will go with the contour of the ground. As soon as you touch it again, it's out of float mode. These two levers, this one controls that brush push guard. This one controls the door flap, just like on a skid steer. Jumping over to the side, that's a fuse. This is the ignition, so you turn this key on. This is actually a key. That engages the machine and the radio control. This button is your throttle down. This button is your reversing fan. So this button you push, you'll hear an audible sound. That's when you start the engine. You start the engine by putting the button down first and then holding it up position until the engine starts. Once it's started, you release it, everything's fine. When you do turn this key on, there will be a flashing light. If it goes red, it tells you something's wrong. In this case, I have the kill switch off, and I probably have the keys off over there. So I'll get to that in a minute. And if I turn it back on, it should just keep flashing green now. Flashing fast green, that says everything's ready to start. At that point, I hit this button. Machine's not on. I'll do that later. Sorry about that. That'll go to a slow flash. That's when you can actually start the machine. The next thing on here is when you're wanting to, the tracks are in right now. So you see the arrows here that show tracks in. So that's where you would want to run it when it's actually running. And then if you want the tracks to go out while it's moving, you just flip the switch up here and then that'll push the tracks out. If we start the machine and the tracks are out, you would go to here. So you engage the tracks while they're in the out mode and then you'd bring them back in. Okay, this again is for angles on slopes. When you're on slopes and the machine's wanting to run off, you can adjust the lower track from the upper track, and the lower track will bite more and it'll keep the machine going straight across the slope. So everything's got to be zeroed to start the machine. And then on the other side of this, you got 3 more buttons, and I'll do it this way so it makes sense. So this button is your throttle up. That'll throttle the engine up. If you do it like that, it'll bring it up like an accelerator. If you hit the button twice, it'll bring it all the way to full idle. If you hit the throttle down button twice, it'll bring it straight up to idle very quickly. On the far end of this is a kill switch, same as you have on the tractor. Push it in, kills everything, pull it out, and you're back ready to go to work. This has a strap that hooks in here, goes around your waist, which you'll see me doing at some point. I can also run this machine without the strap because it's just in my hands like remote control for a car.